All right, so I'm going to do a couple of problems here, just 3 quick problems to help you with the worksheet. So we did a problem similar to this in the warm-ups, and the key is that we want to have a common denominator, but we notice that these terms are a little bit off. So what can I do to this term to make it so I have a common denominator? Yeah, I'm going to multiply this by -1 in the numerator and denominator. When I do that, I'm going to have x over x squared minus 9 plus -3. When I multiply this by -1, I'm going to get -9 plus x squared. But I can turn that around, right? So I'm going to make those match exactly. So now they match exactly. So now I can write it as x minus 3 over x squared minus 9. And the x squared minus 9 goes down to x plus 3, x minus 3. And so now these can cancel. So would I just say 1 over x plus 3 is my answer and I'm finished? What else do I need? What's the restriction? X cannot equal 3. Because look, guys, if I plug 3 into this one, I'm going to get 1/6. But if I plug 3 in back here, I'm going to get undefined and undefined. So it doesn't have any meaning back here, but it would give me a nice answer here. All right, here's the other thing. This is super important, this concept. If I have 2x to the -1 times 4xy to the -2, all over 3x to the -1, y to the -3. These are all factors, okay? So I can combine the 2 and the 4 and get 8. Now, because these are all factors, I can move them. If I want to make this a positive exponent, it can go down to the denominator. The 8 stays where it is, but this x could go to the denominator. This 3 stays where it is, but this x is going to go to the numerator. This y to the -3 would go to the numerator, and this y to the -2 would go to the denominator. How would this all simplify then? What's the answer if I simplify this? 8y over 3. However, what is the restriction? X cannot equal 0 and y cannot equal 0. All right, now look at the difference here. This was all multiplication. This is not multiplication though, this is addition. Watch this first step. I cannot take this x to the -1 to the denominator here. I have to just write this as 2 over x plus 4 over y squared over 3 over x minus 1 over y cubed. That's a huge difference, isn't it, in that first step? Because this has to be the denominator of the numerator. Same thing here. This 4 stays where it is, but the y to the -2 has to be a denominator of the 4. What would be the common denominator for x, y squared, x, and y cubed? What is it? I hear xy squared and xy cubed. Which one? It has to be xy cubed, guys. So you have to multiply through by xy cubed. The reason why is I want to be able to eliminate all of the denominators. Look, if you had used xy squared here, wouldn't it have been bigger down here and you wouldn't have gotten rid of that denominator? All right, so what do we get here when we multiply this one? What's it going to just be? 2y to the 3rd, right? And then what about on this one? What would it be? No, I have y cubed over y squared, so it would just be y. And then what about on this term? What's it going to be? Right, minus. And this one? Just an x. Okay, and then finally, they always want us to write it in factored form. So in the numerator, I could factor out a 2y, and I would have y squared plus 2x. I can't factor anything out of the denominator, so I would just keep it. Restrictions. Back here, I can't have x equal to 0, and I can't have y equal to 0. But here, x and y could be 0, and it would be defined. So that would be my restriction, is that x cannot equal 0, and y cannot equal 0. Okay? So this kind of problem is much more difficult than this kind, because this kind they're factors, I can move them, make them positive exponents. But on this one, to make it a positive exponent, within this one term, it goes to the denominator. Within this one term, it goes to the denominator. And here's that bar. Same thing here, within that term and within that term. Okay? See how this problem is just like what we did on the complex numbers before. All right, so that worksheet, if you understand the difference between those two, you should be fine on the worksheet.